So this here is a painting video for our Fiends of Slaanesh, and as you can see, we actually just finished them. I'm pretty happy with the way they looked, and I hope you like them as well. If that's the case and you want to see how we got to where we are, please feel free to stay tuned. And if you like what you see here, please feel free to subscribe to the channel because it really helps it out. And otherwise than that, we'll see you in a few minutes when we start painting our Fiends of Slaanesh. So this is going to be our video on how to paint the Fiends of Slaanesh. So we've been sitting on these for a little while, but now that they're being released this weekend, I thought maybe we'd paint them and have a good painting video in time for the release. So the first thing we did here is we've primed them all with Corax White. And that's the rattle can. So that gave us a nice base layer of white. And as you can see, we still get the detail. And now we're going to start painting. So looking at the model, there are two distinct parts. We have the skin and the upper body here, and then we have the legs down below. They're going to go two different colors, but the skin is going to involve more dry brushing and brushing all over. It'll be a little bit messier, so we're going to do the skin first, and then we'll be able to put the clear, distinct lines on the bottom afterwards. So starting with the skin, what we're going to do is a base layer of Daemonette Hide. And we're going to put that on pretty much the entire upper body. And it's a watered down layer, so it may take a couple of coats, although this is a really good base color for getting some coverage here. So we'll do these models. We'll meet back here in a few minutes. So this is what it looks like now that we've finished with our Daemonette Hide base. And as you can see, we did the head, the neck, stopping at the armor where the leg skin gets pulled over, as well as in the back end here, same thing, doing the stomach and then the top of the back, and we did it for all three units here. So our next move after this would be to shade all of that, which we're going to do with Druchii Violet. So we're going to take our Druchii Violet, and we're just going to completely shade everything we've covered so far as skin. And that's going to make all the detail come out, which is exactly what we want. So we'll finish these three models and we'll meet back here again in a moment. So now that our Druchii Violet shade has dried, what we have here is our units with all the details exposed. So the next thing we're going to do is take a little bit of Slaanesh Grey and dry brush that over all of the skin and flesh. So we're going to finish dry brushing this in place, and we'll meet back here afterwards and we'll see what it looks like. So this is how our units look now that we've finished with our Slaanesh Grey. And as you can see, we've added the highlight layer. We've done the face, we've done the body and the back, and you can see all of the trinkets start showing up now. So we have one more highlight layer to put over this, but we're going to delay that while we do the skin on the legs. So we're going to do that now. So what we're going to do with that is add a base coat of Naggaroth Night. And you're going to want a detail brush on this one, just because there is some detail. We don't want to go over any of the skin we just did. So we're just doing this second layer here. And as you can see, it's a very watered down color. So we're going to need two coats, and you don't have to do this armor piece that's here. We're going to do that again later. Mostly we're doing skin textures now, and we'll deal with the armor later. So this here is our units after we finished with the layer of Naggaroth Night. And as you can see, we've made them quite dark. So the Naggaroth Night went on the tails, as well as any of the fins or spikes that were on the back. Then it went on the skin that's pulled up on each of the legs, minus any armor pieces that are there, which will go black later. And then the claws as well, keeping in mind that there's an armor piece at the beginning of each one. So now we're going to begin to shade our units. So over all of this Naggaroth Night, what we're going to do is add Nuln Oil, because we want it to be even darker. So we're going to do that in all of these areas, and then we'll probably meet back here to see how it turned out. So this is our units now that we finished the Nuln Oil, and you can see this get turned to a very blackish purple. The tail did the same, the back of the spikes, as well as all of the legs. We also touched up a little bit more Druchii Violet just on the head here, just to sort of separate that from the rest of the body. So we're going to take some Xereus Purple here, and we're going to take a really, really dry brush on that. We're going to dry brush that all across the Naggaroth Night leg skin that we've done, just to highlight that up. We're also going to do a base coat on the cloaks, as well with the Xereus Purple, and that includes the inside as well. So we'll do both of those two things. We'll meet back here. We're not doing the spikes on the back. They will get a different color highlight. So this is now our units after our Xereus Purple is done on the legs, as well as the claws and the tail, as you can see. We didn't do anything with the spikes on the back, so we're going to deal with those now. But as you can see, we also took a few minutes to just clean up all of the detail that had been overbrushed with the dry brushing that we did between the two colors, because we wanted some of that detail back, because we're going to deal with that in a little bit as well. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do a dry brushing on the back of the spikes, and what we're going to do that with is with a little bit of Eshen Grey, sort of add a bit more tie into the armor when we do that as well, which is going to be black. So we'll do that now on all three units, and we'll be right back here. Now that we've got the back spikes done with a grayish sort of tinge, you can see that definitely there's a difference between the spikes on the back as well as the stocking type skin leg thing going on here. So what we're going to do now is we're going to shade this loincloth here, and we're going to do that with some Druchii Violet, just to get the details back in that. And just let that pool in the recesses there. So now that we're finished with that shade on our loincloth, what we're going to do now is start our last highlight layer. So what we're going to do is start on the skin of the legs and the tail and the claws, and we're going to do that with a very, very dry brush of Warpfiend Grey. So one claw looks like that. So we're going to do the same thing with the leg. Something like that. So we'll do the rest of these models. We'll meet back here in a few minutes. So this is our unit now that we finished with our Warpfiend Grey. And as you can see, we've now got some highlights on the claws and on the edges of the tail and on all the musculature of the legs here. So we've got that done. We also took a few seconds, and what we did was go back with another layer of Xereus Purple and just highlight the cloth again to bring some of that out as well. So now we have a little bit of a 3D effect there. So now for our units, we're going to put the highlight layer on the skin, which is the one we've been sort of putting off to last. And what we're going to do is use Pallid Witch Flesh, and we need a really, really, really thin layer, And it's got to be really, really, really dry because it is a very overpowering color. You may even want to change your water since most of your water is tinted purple. So we want just a very light layer. I'm going to start brushing over some of these areas here, lightening up the skin with a very, very light highlight. And what you're looking for is to accentuate the hips as well as the chest and the arm musculature and things like that to draw out all of the little details in the body itself. So we're going to do that, and we'll meet back here and show you what it looks like. So this is our unit so far. So as you can see, the skin is done. It's got its highlight layers and then its ultra highlight layer. The skin on the leg or the stockings, whatever you want to call it, that's done with its 3 layers. And then the back is done as well with its gray, and then just a little dry brush of the Slaanesh Grey over the top, or the Warpfiend Grey over the top, whichever one you tend to like. It'll tie itself in nicely. So that finishes the skin of our units, as well as most of the loincloth. So what we're going to do now is work on the armor. So this is, of course, this piece on the tail we had and did, as well as there's a shoulder guard right here, and band on the knee, and then the shin guards on all of the units, as well as the back shin guards there. So all of those are going to start with a base coat of Abaddon Black, and we're just going to do that now and just get all these little bits here. While we're at it, we're also going to get the claws on all of the feet, and the dew claw that's in the back here on the up higher on the leg, on the ankle. So we'll do all of that now in the shoulder guard. We'll meet back here and we'll see how it all looks. This is our unit now that we're finished with the black, and as you can see, we did the horns going laterally as well as medially. We did the shoulder strap, we did the armor piece, we did all the little horns that were on the big claw, we did the armor on the shins as well as the claws on all the shins. Same thing on the other side, all the claws here. And then we also did the trim all around the body here. So all of the leather strapping that holds everything in place. So we did all of that with the black so far. So we're ready to move on to our next color. So for our next color, what we're going to do is just a dry brush layer of Eshen Grey. And we're just going to dry brush that all over the horns and the claws and the armor, just to bring out some of the detail, add a little bit of a highlight layer to it, and get it ready for the next color when we come around with the silver. So for now, we will get the highlight layer done, and we'll meet right back here in a few minutes. So this is our unit now that we finished with our Eshen Grey dry brush. And as you can see, we've really brought out some lightness on the horns, as well as on the claws and the claws on the feet, as well as some of this armor here. You see it's definitely lit up more, and you can see the design on it now. So the next thing we should do is the detail of all the little silver along the clothing and things like that, and all the pins. However, since that goes over the front of the loincloth, we may as well finish the loincloth first. So this is going to sort of cause a scale system here, but the loincloth is going to get a highlight of Emperor's Children, as is the tongue, but the tongue needs a base coat first of Screamer Pink. So we're going to base coat the tongues Screamer Pink, working our way forward. So now that our Screamer Pink is done, we're going to dry brush on that Emperor's Children layer over both the tongue and the loincloth. So you want to make sure there's not much of it here. Just like that. And then we'll dry brush it over the mouth, just to give us that two-tone mouth effect there. So that gives us that two-tone mouth effect that we wanted, as well as lighting up the loincloth a little bit. So we'll do the other 2 units, meet back here again. So now that our cloak is finished, what we're going to do now is take a little bit of Leadbelcher and start going over all of the details. All of these spots on the chests, these large gems, these dangly parts, and pretty much everything that shines there, as well as along the back, any of these Slaanesh icons, the big tail, scorpion tail, stinger, all of the rings holding in the leg skin. So we'll do all those right now with the Leadbelcher. We'll meet back here in a minute. So these are our units after the Leadbelcher is finished. And as you can see, the silver really helps it start to take shape. So the next thing what we're going to do is shade all of that silver with some Nuln Oil. And by doing that, we'll bring out a bit more of the details in each of the areas here. So we'll do that now, and we'll meet back here, and we'll see where we ended up. So this is how it looks after we're finished with our Nuln Oil. And as you can see, we've really brought out some of the detail on this gray silver here, as well as on the tail. And we also Nuln Oiled the straps, and that filled in some of the lines around them and made them a little bit more level, a little bit more easier to see. So what we're going to do now is, because the Nuln Oil also darkens the metal, we're going to brighten that back up. And for that, we're going to use Stormhost Silver. So just a little tiny bit on a very detailed brush. And we're going to start bringing these silver bits back to life here. Just like so. I'll put a drop on each of these little beads here. So we'll do that on the models, meet back here again in a few minutes, and we'll be ready to move on. So now that we're waiting for the Stormhost Silver to finish drying, what we're going to do is finish off the chest with a little bit of Xereus Purple. And with a fine detail brush, we'll just do those there, and we'll do that on the other units there, and we'll meet back here in a moment. So now that we're finished the chests and the Stormhost Silver is dry, we're going to start doing the gemstones. So we're going to take SoulStone Blue, which is the technical paint, and we're going to paint over all of these gem areas here and light them all up. So just a little bit on a finely detailed brush here. And it'll likely take 2 coats to get a good coloring of what we want here. And as you can see, that's pretty much all there is there. It really shines over the silver. You can get some nice coverage gemstones there. So these are our models, and they're coming along quite nicely now. I took the time to return the base to black because we're going to flock it with sand in a few moments here. But before we do any of that, we have a couple more steps left to go. So one of the first ones we're going to do is add an edge highlight to the armor especially on the legs and the shin panels and things like that. So we're going to do that with Thunderhawk Blue. So we're just going to take our fine detail brush, like that. So we'll do that around all of this trim, all these shoulder pad trims, all of the trim along the shins, and we'll meet back here in a few minutes. And as you can see now, our edge highlight is finished, and you can see we've gone all along the trim, gone over a couple of places, same as on the back leg, same as on the edges, same as on the shoulder pads. We've edge highlighted what we needed to. So the only thing we have left to do are the eyes of the figure here. So what we're going to do with that is take a little bit of Thousand Suns Blue. We want a blue color. We want a blue color that's easy to draw and will stand out. And I really like Thousand Suns Blue for that. So we'll get our very fine detail brush and we'll get started. So with our detail brush, we're just going to add the blue like that. And that's why we wanted a nice royal blue, because it really stands out with just one coat. We'll probably put a second coat on anyway, but it's definitely a very nice bright color. So we'll do the rest of the models and we'll meet back here in a minute. So after we did our Thousand Suns Blue, we took a very, very fine detail brush and just took a little bit of Lothran Blue. And we added that little tiny blop right there to give you sort of a two-tone color. And give us sort of that for eyes, which nice and stands out. So what we're going to do now is just flock the bases, clear coat them, and we'll be right back in a few minutes. So this is our finished units. As you can see, we finished basing them, and that pretty much finished them off now. I hope this video was helpful to you. I hope you enjoyed it, and I really hope that yours ended up as nice as ours did. If that's the case, please feel free to give a like to the channel. Subscribe to the channel, give a like to the video, and leave a comment if you really kind of liked how it is. Effectively, I had not been able to find a good painting video for the Fiends of Slaanesh, so I took it upon myself to make my own. They will be released today, actually, but these are the ones from the Wrath and Rapture kit. So anyway, I hope you enjoy painting them as much as we did. With that, we will let you go, and we will see you the next time we have a painting video.